Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into something that is literally going to change how you think about your own body and your mind. We are exploring the astonishing physical reality of emotional pain, the actual biological architecture of human grief, and, most importantly, how something as simple and automatic as your breath is actually a programmable language. It's a tool that can literally rewrite your biology, reverse aging, and entirely shift your relationship with reality. So let's get right into it.
Think about this for a second. Grief isn't just a feeling. It's a full-system biological event. When someone receives incredibly tragic news, before their conscious mind can even process the words, their brain has already kicked off a massive physical reaction. We're talking about an electrochemical cascade firing across the cerebral cortex at speeds of almost 400 kilometers per hour. Your body doesn't sit around waiting for your frontal lobe to catch up. It reacts immediately to the threat. And to truly wrap our heads around why this happens, we have to look at how our brains actually construct our relationships.
To get to the bottom of this, we need to talk about the default mode network, or the DMN. Basically, this is a large-scale network in your brain that burns a ton of energy when you're supposedly just resting. But here's the thing, it's not actually resting at all. The DMN is constantly generating and updating an active, predictive simulation of your entire world. And this is the truly fascinating part. That simulation physically includes the people you love. Their habits, the sound of their voice, their physical presence in a room, all of that is hardwired into your neural architecture. They are literally a structural feature of how your brain models reality.
So, what happens when someone you love is suddenly gone? Your brain doesn't just hit refresh like a web browser. Instead, the DMN keeps searching. It keeps generating those sensory predictions, fully expecting that person to walk through the front door. And when that expectation isn't met, the network registers this massive prediction error. But because this person is woven so deeply into your mental model, your brain can't just run a quick software update. It searches again and again and again. It's an agonizing loop. Honestly, this is the neurological reason why you might reflexively reach for your phone to call someone who has passed away. It's not you being irrational. It's your brain's prediction machine working exactly the way it was built to.
Now, as this prediction error loops endlessly, your brain's threat center, the amygdala, goes into absolute overdrive. It starts firing distress signals straight down into the brainstem, which is where the vagus nerve begins. If you haven't heard of it, the vagus nerve is the 10th cranial nerve, and you can think of it as the ultimate bidirectional superhighway between your brain and your body. It travels right down your neck, wraps around your heart, and weaves all the way into your gut. So when people say grief feels like a physical hollow ache in their chest, they aren't just being poetic. They're accurately describing a very real physical transmission traveling down that vagus nerve directly into their chest.
This blaring distress signal forces your body to make a choice about how it's going to operate. On one side, you've got the sympathetic nervous system. You probably know this as the fight or flight mode. This state floods your system with cortisol, spikes your heart rate, and keeps you hypervigilant. On the flip side, we have the parasympathetic nervous system, or the rest and repair mode. This side uses the vagus nerve to release acetylcholine, which slows everything down, calms the mind, and focuses on cellular repair. The problem is, acute stress and grief entirely lock us into that damaging sympathetic state.
And being stuck in that sympathetic shock is biologically devastating. First, your body is just absolutely flooded with cortisol. Your amygdala stays hyperactivated, so you feel like there are threats everywhere. Amazingly, your immune system, specifically your natural killer cells, gets suppressed, which makes you incredibly vulnerable to actually getting sick. Plus, your slow-wave sleep gets totally disrupted. Without that deep sleep, your brain can't consolidate memories, which creates that thick, heavy fog of grief. In fact, neuroscience tells us that the brain doesn't even have a separate circuit for emotional loss. To your brain, social pain shares the exact same neural coordinates as a fractured bone. It's a literal survival mechanism.
Okay, so how do we fix this? How do we manually switch the tracks from that damaging cortisol flood back to our restorative rest and repair system? Well, this is where we hit a total paradigm shift. You see, breathing isn't just about gas exchange to keep you from passing out. Breath is programmable biological information. Every single breath you take is literally a line of code being sent straight to your brain and nervous system, telling it exactly what mode to operate in. And it turns out we can use a very specific rhythmic code to flip that switch. Researchers studying some of the longest-living, healthiest people on the planet found that they shared this very specific daily breathing rhythm. We're not talking about some magic pill, we're talking about a highly precise protocol known as the 5-1-5-1 breath. And it's paired with a mental label, the word NA. Here's how it works. You inhale through your nose, deep into your belly for 5 seconds. You'll hold it for 1 second. Then you exhale slowly for 5 seconds while mentally repeating the word NA. followed by another 1-second hold. This isn't just some basic relaxation trick. This is precise biological engineering. That mental label, "na," actively works to sever the looping anxious thoughts of your default mode network.
Let's look under the hood at exactly what this is doing to your body. During that 5-second inhale, your diaphragm expands downward, which physically massages the vagus nerve. That quick 1-second hold acts as a little stabilization point for your nervous system. But the real magic happens on the exhale. That long 5-second out-breath signals your vagus nerve to release acetylcholine, which is basically the ultimate physiological brake pedal. And at the exact same time, mentally repeating "na" acts as a cognitive interrupter. It slices right through the DMN's looping threat signals, forcing your entire body safely into a state of rest and repair before that final 1-second hold.
And the results of doing this consistently, honestly, they are wild. Studies show that a controlled, daily practice of the 5-1-5-1 method can drop markers of systemic inflammation by a massive 47% in just 90 days. We aren't just talking about feeling a little more chilled out. We are talking about fundamentally altering the biological markers that drive chronic disease and cellular breakdown. Which naturally brings us to biological aging. You've probably heard of telomeres, right? They're those little protective caps at the ends of your chromosomes, kind of like the plastic tips on your shoelaces. Chronic sympathetic stress and inflammation cause those telomeres to fray and shorten, which accelerates how fast your cells age. But here's the incredible part. The deep vagal tone you generate with the 5-1-5-1 breath actually stops that fraying. By dumping that stress load, you allow the body's fundamental structure of living to maintain its integrity. You're literally sending a message to your cells that it is safe to halt the rapid aging process. You are reversing biological aging just by maintaining this internal structure.
And when you establish that kind of profound safety through your breath, something really beautiful happens to that overactive default mode network we talked about earlier. As vagal stimulation lowers the DMN's hyperactivity, it finally quiets down those endless looping prediction errors of stress and grief. Your ego and your defensive walls power down. This creates a space for what's called somatic release. This is where deep-seated trauma, physical tension, and suppressed emotions that have been literally locked in your body's tissues can finally just release. Your body realizes it's no longer being chased by a tiger, and it finally lets go.
So if your breath can literally rewrite your cellular age and completely alter how your brain predicts the world, we kind of have to zoom out and ask, what exactly is this reality we are interacting with? Well, this brings us to a groundbreaking framework called Open Interdependence Becoming, or OIB, which helps us grasp the true structure of living. OIB suggests that reality isn't made up of a bunch of static, independent things. Instead, reality is an ongoing, dynamic process of relationships constantly unfolding. Let's break that down, because it's super important. The OIB framework argues that information, matter, and energy are not separate elements. They are totally interdependent, and they interact to maintain your very structure of living. Information isn't just data in a book, it's the organizing principle of life. When you change the biological information you ingest, like adopting the 5-1-5-1 breathing rhythm, you literally alter the flow of energy and the state of your physical matter. That is exactly how breath changes biology and reverses aging. You, the observer listening to me right now, are just a temporarily stabilized structure of these relationships, constantly co-emerging with your environment.
And the OIB framework gives us this incredibly profound insight. Questions do not precede reality. They emerge together with it. It's such a beautiful idea. It perfectly connects the ancient Buddhist principle of dependent origination, the idea that nothing exists entirely on its own, with modern physics. It means that science, philosophy, and our own conscious thoughts aren't just us looking at the universe from the outside, they are the universe making sense of itself. When you consciously take a breath, you are actively participating in the creation of reality.
Which leaves us with a really powerful thought to wrap up today. We've seen the hard data. We know that grief and chronic stress physically reshape your brain and your body. But we also now know that the precise biological code of the 5-1-5-1 breath can hit the brakes. It can lower inflammation, protect your telomeres, and quiet your mind. You are an open, constantly evolving system. So, I want to leave you with this question. If every single breath rewrites your biology, how does your next exhale shape the reality you are becoming? Think about that today as you take your next deep breath in and let it out. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and I can't wait to explore more with you next time.